Hello, fellow reloaders. We are back. This is Professor P. We are working on the next steps of our 57x28 project. Let me first say that reloading and the safety of reloading is your and only your responsibility. And second, I don't shill for any products or services, so everything you see or touch during reloading is mine and stuff I actually use. Today we're going to resize these cases. They've been all cleaned and dried out, and we're going to put them through the resizer. This case does pose some specific challenges. We've looked at it before. It is a little case, and it's very common during the resizing for people to complain about how easily the heads pull off. I do recommend for beginners that you have the correct tool and setup to extract a case from a die. We're going to resize this. I do use a slightly different procedure. I too, once upon a time, ruined my very first die by sticking a case in it. Little fight to figure out the best way to do that. That's what we're going to do. We do need some resizing lube. And so I'm going to use this Imperial sizing die wax today. I've also used the RCBS lube, the second version. This worked great too. We're going to use this, and you'll notice here I have two single stage presses set up. You could do this on a turret press. You could do it on a single stage press just by batching everything through. I typically do that. I only actually have one shell holder for this size of case. If I had two, this process would be a whole lot easier. And after I got ready for this, of course, I actually ordered another one just so I'd have it. I do have a Lee die here. This die is the standard Lee 57x28 decapping die. The pin is in it. I typically use this one, sometimes the RCBS die on this side. This is a Redding die today. I had actually loaned out my RCBS dies, so when I set it up today, I set it up with the Redding, and then my buddy brought back my RCBS die after that. So we're going to use a Redding full-length body sizing die. We are set up to cam over in both these presses. So if I push my ram down, you'll see I am cammed over in this one, and I am camming over in this one. Okay, just a little bit. Doesn't have to be cammed over all the way. We're not trying to win strength contests with that. And with that, let's resize them. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to push the body through the sizing die without the pen and the expander ball, because we'll find it's a whole lot easier just to size the body. And if you go all the way down on the case and you begin to pull back up, this case, it'll release and come off. So we're going to size the outside of the body, but not the neck, and we're not going to pull the primer out. Then we'll move our shell case holder over, since I only have one of those, and we'll run it through this, and we'll push the primer out, and we'll finish sizing the shoulders and the neck. So let's put a little lube on the outside of this case. Again, like any neck down cartridge, we do want to be really careful about putting a lot of lube on the shoulder. At best, if you don't put lube on the shoulder, I typically avoid the shoulder completely. You just don't need any lube up there. A little bit of wax, of the sizing wax on that. Let's put it in. One of the things I try to teach people is if you go halfway down and then stop, you're very likely to have a case freeze. If you start to go down and you get a lot of noise or it's squeaking, you probably either don't have enough sizing or your case are too blown out. At that point, you should really think about this procedure to take the expander ball out. So we're lubed, body only, all the way down to cam over, out, and it comes out very, very easily. Now what I'm going to do is just take one of these little, I was going to call them a Q-tip, and then I thought, well, that's kind of a brand specific thing. I'm just going to put a little bit of lube on the inside of the neck. That way the expander ball is also getting lubed as it goes in and out. Let's put a little more lube around the outside of the case, and let's move our shell holder over. Put our case in. Let's run it. Again, all the way down to cam over, out nice and smooth. Let's wipe it off with a towel here. Let's get some of that lube off of it. The reason I want to wipe it off I'm only worried about the outside, is I don't want to put the lube down into the sizer or into the size checker. So this one's a Sheridan size check gauge. They do make some that are really cool that have cuts in them, so you can see where a case is failing. So let's put this in. Let's see how we did. Ooh, hit bottom very nicely. Dropped out very nicely. That's a perfectly resized case. I can see it's nice and flush against the bottom. Now this case should have grown in size just a little bit. The target size on these, of course, is 1.130, or at least that's the lower trim length. And let's see, are we going to need to trim these? 1.129. That's actually just a touch below. It's a really good result. I'm okay shooting that half a thousandth short, and that's good. So that's the quickest way that I have found to resize these effectively without breaking the heads off as we go through them. So the next step, of course, is need trim to length. We'll have to trim. All right, friends, we have finished sizing our cases. We have about 280 of them. I did go and check all of them against our Sheridan gauge here. And the result, of course, was a couple of failures. And these are, no surprise here, these have been fired either 3 or 4 times. I did pull them out. You don't want to shove them in. Not good for the gauge, no reason to do that. But really, we only lost 2 more cases out of the whole set after resizing for not fitting in the gauge. So our next step after checking the size of the gauge is to trim them. Bottleneck cartridges tend to grow. I have probably 4 or 5 different ways to trim cases. This one is one probably I use the most right now, this Case Trim Express. There are a couple of different makers that make this kind of tool. They do use a bushing. The challenge, of course, is, as far as I know right now, nobody is yet making a bushing for the 5.7 by 28. So I'm set that aside. Of all the tools then, that leads us down to the good old manual way. I do not, for this particular one, this is an RCBS. I do not have the attachment to put a drill on here. I just never bought it because literally I think this is the only case that I'm using this for now. All the other cases I either have a bushing for or I am using a different tool to do it. Unmounted this from my bench, pulled it off the bench, mounted onto a piece of wood, and then I keep this stored so that when I do need it, I just clamp it down to the bench and I am off and running. Okay, these are fairly easy to set up, loose them both. This does have markings on it. Markings line up with a notch here, and you can fine tune. In theory, it's 1/1000th of an inch. Practical experience tells me that it's probably more like plus or minus 2/1000ths, depending mostly on how well you set the case in here. And it's a little bit of effort. Luckily, I've measured all my cases, so I went in and took a length on all my cases, and not all of them need to be sized. A lot of them came in right at 1/1000th under, and again, the book numbers on these are 1.130 up to 1.135. I do try to target the bottom end. That's the trim to spec. I don't like to go below when I can avoid it, but a lot of these cases came in just a little bit below. I'm going to trim the ones, I've measured them all, and I left the ones head up or mouth up that do need to be trimmed. Pull those out, drop them in, and press on the lever here. Get the case centered. I am going to press on the lever just a little bit as I put the spindle in, just so I can make sure that that case is as centered as possible. And we'll just give it a couple of turns. And let's see how we did. You can see that it's trimmed. Case didn't look real square, probably wasn't real square, right at 1.130. So that's a good result right there. Check it from a couple of different sides. and there we are. Fairly simple tool to use. Luckily, I don't have that many to do. I don't have to do all 280 of them. All right, we have pulled all of our other tools out of the way. The next step here is to chamfer, which is basically put a bevel on the inside of that case mouth, and deburr, which is to remove the burr on the outside of the case. And typically, you can have a little burr on the inside, but when you're shortening the case, most of those tools will leave a burr around the outside. It is important to remove that. The chamfering is really important because it will help seating of the bullet. And these little 5.7 by 28, they are fragile relative to other cases, but it still needs to be done. And it's the same process you'd use probably with any other tool. This is my lineman. I do have two of these tools, one on my other workbench, and I do kind of like this one. It's really big. The footprint is big. It takes up a lot of space, but all the crud lands on top, and it's fairly easy to clean up. It's got a little basket here. You just sweep stuff into it with the little brush they give you. Works pretty good. We'll do this, and then we'll one final cleaning. So this is the same procedure as any other case. Typically chamfer. It is not, and if you look here, you can just see, maybe in the little reflection, that little bevel on the inside. Move the burr from the outside, and you can feel when it's gone. Good. Now, the not a strength contest. We're not trying to drive this down and shorten the case. These don't have a military crimp. I do have the military crimp remover. We'd feel that. This is just a wire brush, so we can use the wire brush. That'll clean some of the muck out. And this, of course, is the reamer. And you can ream those. We did get a little bit. These are brand new cases. I won't have to ream. I will use the wire brush to clean all the others. I only have to ream the new ones. That gives us a nice consistent depth. Trust that the reaming process gets them all to the same size and not worry about it beyond that. 280 cases to do, and then we'll get them a quick cleaning. All right, friends, we have finished a quick cleaning of the cases. So they did go into the dry media tumbler for, about 15 minutes a set. I'm not trying to polish these cases. That lacquer gets pretty cloudy when you put them in the dry media tumbler. They do look pretty good. We bring them out of the tumbler, check the primer pockets, make sure that there's no walnut stuck down in them. There are tools, so it probably should have one of these to check the gauge, the primer pocket, if you will. One side fits in very nicely, and it shouldn't have any rattle. The other side should be too big to fit in. And if you're not accustomed, or if you're a beginner and you're not sure how big those primer pockets really are or should be, and don't feel like you get your calipers in to measure them, fail gauges or go-no gauges like this are very, very convenient. This isn't a cartridge that I've experienced a lot of failures with on the primer pockets, at least not when they're new. When they do get up to where they've been fired 3, 4, 5 times, so good fit on the small side, still passing on the big side. So occasionally you'll get them that fail if they've been reamed a little crooked or something. We are at a point we need a workup plan, and which powder we're going to use, which bolt we're going to put in there, and we can load some of these up, get them up to the range to test them.